Hello, my name is Lizzie Breyer, and this is kind of an answer to someone actually who sent me a really great question about law of attraction and you know how many people really get into the law of attraction. Which, for those who don't know what law of attraction is that what you kind of think about and what you put your focus on, and if you keep doing it over and over again, it manifests. So, um, so it's important to think positive thoughts, to not focus on anything negative, because otherwise you're just going to start attracting that in your life. And someone was saying to me, that they were quite concerned about that because then they were worried about what they were thinking, and that's a very common thing. That what can then happen is it does tend to be that a lot of people that already suffer with anxiety are drawn to law of attraction, and then they start beating themselves up because um, and adding even more anxiety, because then they're worrying that the anxiety itself is going to create this um, dreaded event that they might be thinking about. Um, yeah, so it's a really interesting subject. And I was showing before in one of my videos that I don't think it's that obvious. I don't think it actually works in that way. And maybe some of the people that are into law of attraction or that talk about it explain it that way. I don't know, but I know some people think that it really means that when you think like that, that's literally going to manifest. But if that's the case, you've got to think about, like, let's say, for instance, someone who has severe OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder in the thinking style. So they might be having, let's say, obsessive thoughts that. Here's an example. Like they're really worried. Suddenly, these thoughts come that they think they're going to kill one of their children. Okay, they're going to hurt someone. It could be their own child or someone, and they keep having those thoughts over and over again. And then the terror is they really will act on it and they're going to do it. Now, that just doesn't happen, even though for that person it feels really true. Another example is someone who keeps having these thoughts that that if they're in the car, that someone is going to crash into them. It's definitely going to happen, and really, really worrying about it every time they go into the car. And again, nothing happens. But what does happen is they're in that state as if something's already happening, if you know what I mean. Like they're feeling and believing like it's actually happening. So it's very, very stressful for that person. Um, so in terms of in in terms of what you believe, you can actually feel like it's actually happening. But I don't think it's an absolute, and therefore you then create this um, event that happens, or your greatest fear suddenly happens. I mean, you just have to think of all the people in the world and all the kind of negative thoughts they might be thinking and all the fearful thoughts that they might be thinking, and there would be a lot more things happening in the world, a lot more destructive, frightening things happening regularly, with because we have so many thoughts going through our heads, and some people are so frightened of what they think and those thoughts that actually that kind of makes those thoughts keep coming back. There's something about when we resist something, it just keeps coming back over and over again. It's that famous quote, what you resist persists. So if I'm worrying that I don't know, I'm going to get cancer, and I keep focusing on it over and over and over again, um, that's just keeps what happening. Sorry, if I have the fear that I might have cancer, then there's that reaction to it. Oh my god, I don't want that, and that's the resistance. And then the thoughts keep coming over and over, because with that is the feeling of anxiety, and the feeling makes it feel true and makes it more scary, which keeps the whole thing in a loop. But it doesn't mean I then get cancer. But what I'm left with is this constant worry. And I'm sure that there are instances where people have these fears and something does happen to them. But, you know, can we really know for sure that that's because they have those thoughts, or is it just that, you know, things do happen to us? And of course, when we keep worrying and we're in a you know, like we just kind of get in a stew over it, and our life becomes about worrying. So we're not even getting a break. You know, we're getting more and more sort of caught in anxiety and stress and worry, and we're kind of changing our the body functions in a way. We're going into the autonomic nervous system, and we're creating this stress in our body. And if that keeps happening over and over and over again, then yes, I suppose there is more of a likelihood for some sort of perhaps illness to show up, because we're constantly going into this loop of adrenaline and fight or flight, which is very stressful on the body. But even then, it doesn't mean something like that's going to happen. Quite often, it's more like the kind of issues that you would get is maybe stomach problems like IBS, or pain in the body, anxiety. It doesn't always mean, okay, then that's going to create this, you know, horrible illness, or yeah. So yeah, I mean, the law of attraction is interesting because it does seem to attract people that are very worried about their own thoughts and their own anxiety and their own stress, and so then they find another way to beat themselves up. Like, you know, it's bad enough that they're dealing with this stress and anxiety, but then they're like, oh my god, you know, now that I'm believing that, this thing is going to happen, and now I've made it worse, so I better not think that. And then they're trying not to think it, which is really stressful because you're trying, but it's there anyway. And that in itself just creating this loop of stress around thinking positive and having a high vibration. And what it also does, and I've seen that a lot in that kind of instance, and I know because I was part of that too, I used to really be into that, it was this kind of a way to beat yourself up, another way to reject yourself. So, you know, oh no, I'm thinking the negative thoughts, oh god, that must mean I'm a really bad person. And so, you know, I'm not thinking, you know, I'm not in this high vibrational state, and I'm not thinking positively, or I'm with someone who's not in that place, and so therefore we reject them as well. So, you know, they're toxic, I've heard that a lot, like toxic energy, or this person is affecting me and they're toxic. And so we're not only rejecting ourselves, but we can be rejecting other people. And not to, again, you know, it's important for you to know that it's not, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not stating that we should go around accepting everyone, you know, especially if someone's actually harming us, whether it's physically or emotionally. Of course, it's important to look after ourselves. But I don't know, there's something about using that law of attraction sometimes to create intolerance within ourselves and within others, and to create more anxiety. And I don't